Leo was a quiet young man who worked in the small cafeteria of Horizon Aerospace. He spent his mornings helping his mother, Maria, arrange trays, clean tables, and organize the kitchen. She had worked there for years and everyone knew her as a kind and hard-working woman. Leo had grown up around machines and tools, always curious about how things worked. While other kids played outside, he spent hours reading manuals and watching videos about engines. His dream was simple, yet unusual for someone his age, to one day work with real aircraft engines. The cafeteria was busy that morning, filled with engineers and staff getting their breakfast. Leo moved silently between tables, delivering coffee and sandwiches. He always noticed details others missed. He saw how a machine in the corner rattled when in use, or how a screw in a tray dispenser had loosened. His mother often warned him that his attention to small details could get him in trouble, but Leo felt it was his gift. It gave him a sense of purpose, even in the small cafeteria where most people overlooked him. That afternoon, a special inspection was scheduled. The CEO, Vanessa Steele, was known for her sharp mind and strict rules. She had built her empire with determination and had little patience for mistakes. Vanessa walked into the cafeteria with a group of executives and engineers, her presence commanding immediate attention. She moved through the room with precision, inspecting every corner. Her eyes landed on Leo, who was polishing a small wrench. She raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by the sight of a cafeteria worker's son handling a tool with care. Vanessa approached him and spoke in a voice that carried both curiosity and mockery. She held up a model of one of the company's latest jets, a miniature representation of an $8 million aircraft. "Do you even know what this company builds?" she asked. Leo looked up quietly, but he did not speak. The other staff glanced nervously at each other. Vanessa smirked, enjoying the discomfort she caused. "This is worth millions. Could you even touch a real engine without breaking it?" she asked, leaning closer. Her tone was sharp, testing him. Leo's face grew red, but he did not respond. He had heard similar questions before, though never in such a public way. The cafeteria staff stifled laughter, unsure if they should feel embarrassed or protective. Vanessa, seeing the fear around her, decided to escalate the challenge. "I dare you," she said. "Go to the hangar and fix one of our engines. Succeed, and I might believe you belong here. Fail, and you leave this company forever." Leo's heart raced, but he felt a strange calm. This was the moment he had been preparing for in secret, reading manuals, watching repair videos, and practicing on old machines in the cafeteria storage room. He nodded silently, signaling that he accepted the challenge. The executives and engineers whispered among themselves, doubting that someone with his background could complete the task. Vanessa's smirk widened as she anticipated his failure, imagining the embarrassment he would face. When they arrived at the hangar, Leo saw the massive jet engine for the first time. It towered over him, filled with complex pipes, turbines, and valves. The size alone could intimidate a trained engineer, let alone a young man who had only ever worked with small tools. Vanessa stood nearby, watching every move, her expression a mix of amusement and skepticism. The engineers gave him space but exchanged concerned glances. Leo, however, did not flinch. He studied the engine carefully, moving around it to inspect every visible part. His hands shook slightly at first, but he focused on his knowledge. He remembered every diagram he had studied and every repair video he had watched. Slowly, methodically, he began checking the turbine assembly, looking for subtle flaws. He noticed a small misalignment that even the senior engineers had overlooked during previous inspections. Leo realized that this tiny detail could lead to a major failure if left uncorrected. His mind worked quickly, planning each step before touching the engine. Vanessa watched with growing curiosity. She had expected nervous fumbling, not precise examination and careful inspection. The other staff began to sense that something extraordinary was happening. Leo worked silently, tightening bolts, adjusting valves, and checking alignment. Each motion was deliberate, controlled, and confident. He felt a mix of excitement and pressure, knowing that any mistake could cost him everything. Yet he remained calm, relying on the preparation he had done in secret. Hours passed in the hangar, but Leo continued to work steadily. He moved from one section of the engine to another, identifying weak points and correcting them. His hands became more confident with each adjustment, and his focus never wavered. The engineers watched in amazement as he solved problems that had baffled their team for weeks. Vanessa, meanwhile, felt a strange mix of frustration and admiration. She could not deny the skill she was witnessing, even if it challenged her ego. Finally, Leo completed his inspection and adjustments. He flipped the main switch to test the engine. The massive machine roared to life, smooth and steady, performing better than it had in weeks. The engineers and staff gasped, unable to hide their astonishment. Vanessa's eyes narrowed as she tried to hide her surprise. She had expected failure, humiliation, or panic, yet Leo had done the impossible. The young cafeteria worker's son had just demonstrated skill and intelligence that rivaled even the most experienced engineers. Leo stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead, but he remained calm. He did not boast or seek praise. The hangar was filled with whispers of admiration and disbelief. People began to understand that he was not just lucky. He had prepared, studied, and worked quietly for years. Vanessa, on the other hand, felt a shift in her perception. She realized that her assumptions about people based on their background could be dangerously wrong. Talent, she understood now, could appear in the most unexpected places. As the crowd slowly dispersed, Leo returned to his mother in the cafeteria. Maria noticed the change in his demeanor and the subtle nods of respect from the engineers who passed by. She smiled, proud but quietly concerned about the attention he had drawn. Leo smiled back, knowing that this was just the beginning of something bigger. The challenge had revealed more than just a flaw in the engine. It had revealed his capability, patience, and intelligence, qualities that could not be ignored any longer. The cafeteria resumed its normal rhythm, yet the energy had changed. Everyone who had witnessed the event now carried a sense of respect and awe for Leo. Vanessa left the hangar quietly, her mind racing with thoughts she had never considered before. She had seen talent and courage in a young man she had underestimated. The empire she had built was powerful, but this small challenge had reminded her that the foundation of true strength lay not only in money or status but also in skill, knowledge, and integrity. Leo returned to his quiet routine, but the whispers followed him. Engineers asked questions politely, and even Vanessa seemed to watch him with a new level of curiosity. He had earned respect without seeking it, simply by demonstrating what he could do. The young man who had once only polished wrenches in a small cafeteria had shown that intelligence, patience, and hard work could overcome assumptions and expectations. It was a lesson for everyone present, a reminder that even the smallest person could make a massive impact. Leo woke early the next day, filled with determination and a quiet excitement. He could still feel the hum of the jet engine from yesterday in his mind, and the memory of Vanessa Steele's sharp gaze lingered like a challenge he had not yet fully met. Today, he would return to the hangar, but this time the atmosphere was different. The engineers were looking at him with newfound respect, and Vanessa herself had quietly instructed the team to watch him closely. Leo understood that he had not only proven himself but also drawn attention from the highest levels of the company. As he walked through the massive hangar, Leo noticed how each engine seemed larger and more complex than the last. His heart raced, but his hands were steady. He had memorized the layout of every component and could visualize how each part functioned under pressure. He approached the engine Vanessa had singled out yesterday, an $8 million masterpiece of engineering, and began a careful inspection. The engineers hovered around him, some skeptical, some in awe, while Vanessa observed from a distance, her arms crossed as she studied his methodical approach. Leo started by checking the turbine blades, scanning for even the smallest sign of wear or misalignment. He moved slowly, but with precision, ensuring each measurement and adjustment was perfect. He found a tiny misalignment, a flaw that could have caused catastrophic failure if left uncorrected. This was the same flaw he had suspected yesterday, but today he had time to analyze it more deeply. Using his small tools, he gently adjusted the parts, tightening screws and realigning the components. The engine responded to his touch, almost as if it recognized the care he was giving it. Vanessa walked closer, her curiosity growing stronger. She had never seen anyone approach such a complex machine with such focus and patience. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice sharp but tinged with disbelief. Leo glanced up and shook his head slightly, concentrating on the engine without speaking. His silence was powerful. It demonstrated confidence without arrogance. The engineers whispered among themselves, realizing that Leo's talent was more than luck or coincidence. It was knowledge applied with skill. Hours passed, and Leo moved from section to section, following the flow of the engine as he worked. He examined each valve, each pipe, and each connection, looking for weaknesses. When he found a problem, he corrected it carefully, always considering the long-term effect on the machine. Vanessa observed, unable to hide the tension building inside her. She had faced many challenges in her career, but none had made her feel so unsettled. She could see that this young man, whom she had dismissed yesterday, had the ability to surpass her own team's expertise. As Leo worked, the hangar was silent except for the soft clicks of wrenches and the low hum of the engine being tested in parts. Each engineer seemed to hold their breath, watching in amazement. Some had doubted him, some had laughed at the idea of a cafeteria worker's son repairing a jet engine, but now all those doubts were replaced by respect. Leo's focus was unwavering. He did not look for recognition, nor did he seek praise. He was driven by the satisfaction of solving a complex problem and proving his abilities through action. By late afternoon, Leo reached the final section of the engine, a critical component where air pressure and fuel lines converged. This part was delicate, and any mistake could cause a major failure. Leo examined it carefully, using his knowledge to trace each connection and ensure there were no leaks or loose fittings. He discovered a small misalignment in the fuel injector, something even the senior engineers had overlooked in their previous inspections. With careful hands, he corrected the issue, double-checking each adjustment before moving on. The engine responded smoothly, confirming that the flaw had been resolved. Vanessa stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied Leo's work. She had expected hesitation or error, but there was none. The young man was calm, confident, and meticulous. The other engineers exchanged glances, amazed at what they were witnessing. They began to quietly discuss his techniques, realizing that he had not only fixed the engine but also demonstrated a level of understanding that surpassed many of them. Leo's actions were quiet yet commanding, his knowledge evident in every precise movement. Finally, Leo prepared the engine for a full test. He signaled the engineers to stand back as he activated the main controls. The engine roared to life, smooth and steady, performing better than it had in weeks. The sound filled the hangar, a powerful reminder of the skill and intelligence behind the repair. The engineers could hardly contain their amazement, and Vanessa's face revealed a mixture of surprise, admiration, and something she had not felt in a long time, a touch of humility. She realized that her assumptions about people based on background or status could be dangerously wrong. Leo stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead, and observed the engine's performance. It hummed with precision, each component functioning in perfect harmony. Vanessa called the engineers together and demanded an explanation of what had been done. Leo calmly detailed the flaws he had identified and the steps he had taken to correct them. His explanation was clear, precise, and easy to understand. The engineers nodded in agreement, impressed by the depth of his knowledge and the careful logic behind his actions. Word of Leo's achievement quickly spread through Horizon Aerospace. By evening, other departments were aware of what had happened in the hangar. Engineers and managers began to treat him with newfound respect, and even Vanessa seemed unsure of how to react. She had faced many challenges in her career, but none had tested her assumptions and authority like this. Leo's quiet intelligence had not only fixed a critical engine but had also exposed a blind spot in the company's culture, the tendency to underestimate talent based on appearances or roles. The next day, Leo returned to the cafeteria, where his mother greeted him with a warm smile. She had heard whispers of his achievement and felt both pride and concern for the attention it had drawn. Leo smiled politely, quietly aware of the change around him. Engineers now asked his advice, and Vanessa herself made a point to observe him from time to time. He had not sought recognition, but it had come naturally, a result of his skill, patience, and intelligence. Despite the attention, Leo remained humble. He continued his work in the cafeteria and the hangar, learning, observing, and improving. His calm determination inspired those around him, and his success served as a lesson to everyone in the company. Talent, integrity, and patience could overcome assumptions, social hierarchy, and doubt. Leo's actions were not just about fixing an engine, they were a reminder that true ability could appear in the most unexpected places, and those who ignored it did so at their own risk. Vanessa, meanwhile, began to rethink her approach. She had always relied on her sharp instincts and business acumen, but she realized that human talent could not be judged by status or role. Leo's quiet intelligence had challenged her assumptions and forced her to see that even someone from the cafeteria could possess extraordinary skill. It was a humbling experience, one that would influence her decisions and leadership style in the months to come. The engineers continued to analyze the repaired engine, noting the precision of each adjustment Leo had made. They began to adopt some of his methods, learning from his approach to problem-solving. Leo's work had a ripple effect, improving the company's procedures and raising the standard for everyone. He had not only fixed an engine but had also changed the way people thought about skill, observation, and the value of preparation. The hangar was no longer just a place of machinery. It had become a place of learning and respect, thanks to one young man's quiet determination. As the day ended, Leo walked home with his mother, carrying a sense of accomplishment that was calm yet powerful. He knew he had proven his abilities, but he also understood that this was only the beginning. Vanessa and the executives had seen his potential, and the future held new opportunities and challenges. He felt ready for whatever came next, confident in his skill, knowledge, and integrity. His journey had started in a small cafeteria, but it was leading him toward much greater horizons. The morning after Leo's remarkable achievement, the atmosphere at Horizon Aerospace had changed completely. Engineers who had once doubted him now greeted him with respect and curiosity. Even the cafeteria staff noticed the difference, whispering excitedly about how the young man who had served the meals was now the center of attention in the company. Leo walked through the hallways quietly, aware of the eyes following him, but he did not let the attention affect his calm demeanor. His mind was focused on learning more and improving further, not on praise or recognition. Vanessa Steele, the CEO, called for an emergency meeting with the senior board members. She had been forced to admit that Leo's talent went beyond anything she had expected. She stood at the front of the room, trying to maintain her composure while presenting the situation. The board listened carefully as Vanessa described how a young man, whose family worked in the cafeteria, had identified and corrected a critical flaw in an $8 million jet engine. The room was silent as everyone processed the significance of what she had just said. Leo was invited to the meeting, and as he entered the room, the board members exchanged surprised glances. No one expected someone from his background to be present in such a high-level discussion. Leo remained calm, greeting everyone politely and taking a seat quietly. Vanessa watched him closely, curious about how he would handle the scrutiny. He did not speak until she addressed him, and even then, his words were clear, respectful, and precise. The board leaned in, eager to hear his explanation of the issue and the solution he had implemented. He began by outlining the problem in simple terms, showing exactly where the turbine and fuel injector had misaligned. He explained the steps he had taken to correct the flaw, emphasizing the importance of careful observation, patience, and methodical work. The board members listened intently, impressed by his clarity and expertise. They asked detailed questions, and Leo answered each one calmly, demonstrating not only knowledge but also an understanding of how his solution would affect the entire engine's performance. Vanessa felt a mixture of pride and unease as she watched him command the room with quiet authority. By the time the discussion ended, it was clear that Leo had done more than repair an engine. He had revealed weaknesses in the company's inspection procedures and highlighted the importance of nurturing talent at every level, not just among engineers with formal titles. Vanessa realized that her empire had been built on sharp business strategies, but it could only thrive if it respected skill, intelligence, and integrity. She looked at Leo, understanding that his actions had reshaped her perspective on leadership and talent recognition. Outside the boardroom, the engineers began implementing some of Leo's techniques, adopting his careful and methodical approach to inspections and repairs. The hangar had become a place of learning, where knowledge was shared freely and every problem was approached with patience and precision. Leo's influence spread quietly but effectively, changing the culture of the company. He had not sought authority, yet he had earned it through his skill, intelligence, and unwavering focus. Vanessa scheduled a private meeting with Leo later that day. She wanted to understand more about his background and the source of his extraordinary knowledge. He explained how his mother had inspired him, how he had spent years learning on his own, and how his curiosity about engines had driven him to practice on small machines and parts in the cafeteria storage area. Vanessa listened carefully, realizing that this young man's humility and dedication were as remarkable as his skill. She offered him a formal position in the engineering department, emphasizing that she wanted him to continue contributing to the company's projects and innovations. Leo accepted, but he remained humble, stating that he was eager to learn and improve, not to boast or seek fame. Vanessa was impressed by his character, realizing that true talent is often accompanied by humility and a desire to grow. She felt fortunate to have discovered someone who could bring both skill and integrity to her company. Over the next few weeks, Leo worked closely with the engineering team. He shared his knowledge and methods, helping others approach complex problems with patience and precision. The company began to see improvements in efficiency and accuracy, and the culture of respect and collaboration grew stronger. Leo's influence was subtle but profound, reminding everyone that skill and intelligence could appear in the most unexpected places. His actions had not only repaired an engine but had transformed the environment of Horizon Aerospace. Vanessa observed these changes with a mixture of pride and humility. She had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating people based on appearance or social position. Leo's presence in the company reminded her that leadership involves recognizing and cultivating talent, no matter where it comes from. She began to implement policies that encouraged employees to share ideas and solutions freely, fostering a culture of learning and collaboration. The company was stronger because it had learned to value every contribution, just as Leo had demonstrated. Meanwhile, Leo remained grounded. He continued to work in the cafeteria during breaks, helping his mother and quietly maintaining his routines. He enjoyed the small moments of normalcy, knowing that they kept him focused and balanced. At the same time, he dedicated himself to his engineering work, learning from experienced colleagues while sharing his own insights. He understood that growth required both humility and persistence, and he was committed to both. The employees of Horizon Aerospace began to see Leo as a mentor, someone who could guide them through difficult problems with calm and clarity. Even Vanessa sought his advice on challenging technical matters, valuing his perspective and careful reasoning. Leo's presence reminded everyone that intelligence, skill, and integrity could not be measured by status or background. He had proven that determination and knowledge were more powerful than assumptions or prejudice. As months passed, Horizon Aerospace thrived under the combination of Vanessa's leadership and Leo's influence. The company's reputation for excellence grew, and the engineers embraced a culture of careful observation, collaboration, and continuous learning. Leo's approach to problem-solving became a model for others, showing that thoughtful, methodical work often led to the best results. His success was not only a personal achievement but also a catalyst for positive change across the company. Leo continued to balance his life between the cafeteria and the engineering department. He enjoyed the quiet satisfaction of helping his mother while also contributing to the company in significant ways. Vanessa respected his discipline and focus, often inviting him to provide insights on upcoming projects. Leo remained humble, never seeking praise, but the respect and admiration he earned naturally followed him. He had proven that true talent, when paired with integrity and patience, could influence an entire organization. Through his actions, Leo had taught everyone a powerful lesson. He had shown that no matter where someone started, their determination, knowledge, and careful work could lead to extraordinary results. He had challenged assumptions, solved complex problems, and inspired change. Vanessa and the engineers had learned that respect must be earned through skill and character, not assumed by position or title. Leo's journey was a testament to the power of dedication, curiosity, and quiet confidence. By the end of Part 3, Leo had not only secured his place in the company but had also become a symbol of hope and inspiration. His story spread quietly among employees, reminding everyone that true talent can appear in the most unlikely places. Horizon Aerospace was stronger and wiser because of him, and he remained humble, focused, and committed to learning. Leo had shown that even the smallest person could create a significant impact when guided by skill, integrity, and patience. Leo had now settled into his new role at Horizon Aerospace, balancing his time between the engineering department and the cafeteria. Though he had earned respect across the company, he remained humble and focused. He understood that talent alone was not enough. Consistent effort, patience, and learning from others were equally important. Each day, he approached his tasks with care, whether tightening a bolt on a turbine or helping his mother organize trays. His dedication inspired those around him, showing that humility and skill could coexist beautifully. Vanessa Steele had begun to observe Leo closely, no longer with doubt but with admiration. She realized that leadership was not just about making decisions or controlling people but about recognizing and nurturing talent wherever it appeared. Leo's intelligence, patience, and dedication had not only solved a critical technical problem but had also reshaped her perception of what true skill looked like. She called him to her office one afternoon to discuss an upcoming project that required careful planning and innovation. Leo listened carefully as Vanessa explained the challenge. A new prototype engine was behind schedule due to design flaws and miscommunication between teams. She wanted Leo to provide insight on how to streamline the process and avoid errors. He studied the schematics, asked thoughtful questions, and suggested small but effective adjustments that could prevent future failures. His suggestions were simple but precise, demonstrating that sometimes careful observation and methodical work were more effective than rushing through complex problems. The engineering team watched in amazement as Leo collaborated with them. They realized that his approach was different from what they were used to. He focused on understanding the problem fully before acting, anticipating potential issues, and taking preventive steps. His influence gradually changed the culture of the department. Engineers began to slow down, observe carefully, and communicate more effectively. Mistakes decreased, and productivity improved. Leo's impact went beyond technical skill. He had transformed how the team approached every task. Meanwhile, Vanessa began implementing changes across the company. Inspired by Leo's quiet influence, she encouraged employees at all levels to share ideas and solutions. She created small forums where workers could discuss challenges openly, and she made a point to include voices that were often overlooked. Leo's story had become a symbol of inspiration, showing that talent could appear anywhere, and that recognizing and nurturing it could strengthen the entire organization. His example reminded everyone that respect and opportunity should not depend on title or status. Leo continued to balance his life with simplicity. He remained close to his mother, helping her in the cafeteria during breaks and sharing meals with her. He valued these moments of normalcy because they kept him grounded. At the same time, he dedicated himself to his engineering work, always eager to learn from experienced colleagues and share his own knowledge. His calm demeanor, combined with his intelligence and patience, made him a trusted figure in both the cafeteria and the engineering department. As the months passed, Leo took on more responsibility in the engineering department. He was asked to supervise small projects and mentor junior engineers. He approached these tasks with the same methodical care he had always shown. Instead of asserting authority, he guided quietly, letting others learn by observation and experience. His ability to solve complex problems without arrogance earned him admiration from everyone, from senior engineers to new interns. The company culture shifted to value collaboration, patience, and careful planning. Vanessa observed these changes with a growing sense of respect for Leo. She had once believed that intelligence was demonstrated through titles, degrees, and status. Leo had shown her otherwise. He had demonstrated that skill and wisdom could come from curiosity, dedication, and hard work, regardless of background. She started seeking his opinion on major technical decisions, recognizing that his insight was invaluable. Leo's influence reminded her that humility and intelligence were equally important in leadership and in any successful team. One day, a critical situation arose with a high-profile engine prototype. The test system had shown inconsistencies, and the engineers were unsure how to proceed. Vanessa immediately called Leo to the hangar. He carefully examined the system, reviewing every connection, component, and control mechanism. Using his methodical approach, he identified a subtle misalignment that could have led to serious failure. He corrected it efficiently and tested the system, which operated flawlessly. The engineers watched in awe, realizing that Leo's quiet intelligence and careful observation had prevented what could have been a major disaster. Word of Leo's abilities spread beyond Horizon Aerospace. Other departments requested his guidance, and Vanessa promoted him to a role where he could contribute to major projects while continuing to mentor others. Leo accepted the responsibilities with humility, never seeking attention or accolades. He focused on learning, helping others, and ensuring that every project he worked on met the highest standards. His influence created a culture where quality, care, and respect for talent were at the forefront. Despite the growing recognition, Leo remained grounded. He continued to spend time in the cafeteria with his mother, helping her organize meals and clean tables. He valued these moments as reminders of his roots and the lessons he had learned from her: patience, hard work, and humility. Even as his role in engineering expanded, he maintained the balance between work and family, knowing that both were essential to his growth and happiness. Leo's example inspired everyone around him. Engineers learned to slow down, observe carefully, and communicate effectively. Managers learned to recognize and nurture talent, regardless of background. Vanessa herself had become a more thoughtful and humble leader, appreciating the value of every employee's contribution. Leo had transformed the company not just through his technical skill but through his character, patience, and quiet determination. As new projects came in, Leo continued to apply his careful, methodical approach. He reviewed designs, suggested improvements, and guided teams through challenges. Every success reinforced the lessons he had taught. Patience, observation, and collaboration were key to achieving excellence. His work inspired others to value intelligence, integrity, and dedication, rather than status or position. Leo's presence had created a ripple effect that strengthened the entire company, making Horizon Aerospace more innovative, careful, and successful. By the end of the year, Horizon Aerospace had achieved record performance in both project completion and innovation. The influence of Leo's methods and leadership was evident throughout the company. Employees approached problems thoughtfully, collaborated openly, and respected each other's contributions. Vanessa reflected on the transformation with gratitude and humility, understanding that the lessons Leo had brought to the company were as valuable as any technical achievement. Leo had not only fixed engines, he had fixed assumptions, inspired change, and created a culture of excellence. Leo continued to grow in his role, balancing work, learning, and family. He remained humble, focused, and patient, demonstrating that true talent shines brightest when paired with integrity and dedication. His story became a source of inspiration for the company and beyond, a reminder that anyone, regardless of background, can make a significant impact when they combine skill, intelligence, and character. Horizon Aerospace was stronger, wiser, and more innovative because of the quiet cafeteria worker's son who had dared to take a challenge and succeed.